Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show. I am so excited to have Dr. Arnold and his fabulous, super fantastic wife, Roxy Earle, on today. We're going to talk about how to conceive at home, not on a bus, not at a bus stop, not on a train station, with the Anna app. Featuring both of you, and this is something that's near and dear to your heart. And basically, you're going to share about how the Anna app uses hormone horoscopes, AI-powered conception timing, and mindset support to improve your chances of getting pregnant naturally and confidently. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about you guys. So Dr. Arnold is a fertility expert and co-founder of Anna, a cutting-edge fertility tracking app that combines AI-powered ovulation prediction, hormone cycle analytics, and emotional well-being support. With a passion for personalized fertility care, Dr. Arnold's approach focuses on empowering individuals to better understand their fertility and make informed decisions. And Roxy is a prominent advocate for women's health and fertility, co-founded Anna after her own fertility journey, which included successfully conceiving naturally after being told IVF was her only option. Drawing from her personal experience and deep desire to help others, Roxy has become a voice for those navigating the complexities of fertility, aiming to break stigmas and empower individuals with the tools and support they need on their journey to parenthood. Together, as a married couple, they are revolutionizing the way people approach fertility through innovation, technology, and emotional support. So let's get to the question. So as a couple, one of you being a fertility doctor and the other being a business founder, part of the Real Housewives franchise and influencer, you've got an interesting angle to change the face of fertility. And Roxy, you've been told that you would need to do IVF to get pregnant, but it turns out that wasn't actually necessary. How has your own fertility journey informed the development of your Anna app, both on the clinical and personal side?
It's such a great question because you're so right that I come at this from such a different angle. I'm not a doctor. I'm not in this world. And I found myself in this world when just like so many women, I was in a relationship for a long time and it ended in my mid 30s. And I was sort of left with this panic feeling of, I know I want to have children, but how is this going to happen? And so I went and saw two like top fertility doctors in California. And both of them just looked at me, looked at my age, looked at my weight at the time, and just said, you're never going to be able to get pregnant naturally. You're going to need to do IVF. As a woman in my mid 30s, I just believed what I was told. And it just so happened that I found the whole thing a bit overwhelming, the cost of it, the experience of it. I was a single woman who just really at that point knew I wanted to have children and I'm in there to freeze my eggs. And then I'm being told, well, you're not even going to be able to have children if it's not for IVF. And so I carried that with me as a woman, dating and navigating my life. And so I just so happened to fall in love with a fertility doctor. Maybe it was my life manifesting. I'm not sure, but it worked out perfectly. And I remember it was like our first date. I said to him, I want you to know I've been told I will need to have IVF. And it was just something, he wasn't even fazed by the information. And then it just sort of like went to the side of, and when we went to actually have children and we knew that we were ready, I was a little bit overwhelmed by what might be ahead. And he was not at all. He's like, let's get into the cause of this. And I'll let Arnold talk to that. But what was amazing is at first he was like, let's address all of these other things first. And when Arnold gets into it, he basically made a program for me. It worked. I'll let him tell you about what the program was because it's what informed Anna. But it worked. And I got pregnant at 38 and 39 naturally with both of our children. As it turns out, I was not infertile at all. But had I have not met Arnold, had I have not gone down this journey with him, I would have just gone on to do IVF like everyone had told me to do, and I would have never needed it.
Right. So what was your special sauce, Dr. Arnold?
I think that when it comes to getting pregnant at home, part of the context, I should say before we get into exactly what we did, is that I practiced in both Canada and the US. I'm double board certified in both Canada and the US. And in Canada, pre-IVF care is much more prevalent because it is covered by the government for the most part. And so because of that, we just see a lot more of it happening. And we work very closely with naturopaths. At least I did. Not every doctor in Canada does this, but like I had an interest in really getting to the bottom of what was going on in the natural conception world, or like I would say, assisted conception without IVF world. And really what I saw was, in some cases, naturopathy and acupuncture, they aren't very helpful, right? But in some cases, they can be extremely powerful, particularly when the root cause has to do with a metabolic imbalance or hormonal irregularity. I found there was significant benefit, particularly to the mechanisms of insulin resistance improvement. And so with Roxy, it was an issue that was down those lines. And so the right supplement program combined with lifestyle applications and the use of letrozole really made a big difference. And also, one of the criteria she'd been given for why she did IVF was that she had a sonohysterogram with tubal patency evaluation to check the fallopian tubes, and they said her tubes were blocked. And being in Canada, that test is covered by the government. And so I did personally about 1,500 per year of those tests. And so I was so proficient in that I knew that in my own hands, there were maybe 5 to 10 people who truly had blocked tubes in that 1,500 per year. And so I just knew that it was vanishingly rare in the absence of the pelvic infection or other pathology and, or history of that. And she didn't have any of that. And so I wasn't convinced by that test. And of course, we were able to make these work. So we wanted to codify that into an approach that we could then share with other people to be able to help them on their journey. And that's how Anna was born.
I was in this unique position having this incredible audience in Canada because I'm part of the Real Housewives franchise and I'm well known in Canada. And so I had all of these women my age watching my story who were like, I too find myself at this age wanting to have a family, not knowing how to navigate fertility. And they were all like, how did you get pregnant? And that's was really one of the main things of when Anna was born. It was to share, like, had I have not met Arnold, I would have been the other statistic, which is like just another person who was told I had my tubes blocked. Why would I question a doctor? Would have done IVF, would have gone down that road, spent all that money, had all that heartache to my body. And it was just a very eye-opening experience that people were very interested in. And we had this audience to share. And we wanted to share with them. We wanted to give access that there's other options out there.
Yeah, I think
for people, for certain types of people, not everyone, lots of people. Obviously, it's an incredible miracle worker IVF. It just wasn't for everybody. And I was one of those people.
Right. So you basically got to the root cause and you are now delivering a technology that can help other people be successful just like you. And I want to get into the defining features of your app: AI-powered ovulation prediction, hormone cycle analytics, and mindset support. And I really don't think there are many apps out there that do this. This is kind of like groundbreaking, one of a kind.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about each for a moment because I know each is equally important for anyone who's trying to conceive. So tell us how the app works. What parts are AI?
That's an area I can speak to.
Yeah.
It's very typical in medical. So the key that I felt was missing in the over-the-counter approaches that existed currently was that they were very much focused on one isolated data point. And as a clinician, we know that we need to integrate data in order to have a useful plan that we can create. You can't just go with like something to test your urine or something that, just a wearable or just a cycle tracker looking at your period. You have to integrate data. And so that's why this app has several components to it, because I think they're necessary to create a valid program, in my opinion, right? And so the parts that we use AI are in where we get data from your wearable device. So we get data streams from the Apple Watch and even the Aura Ring that's passed into Apple My Health. We're able to derive and compile that data and compare it against your own logs of your ovulation tests, and then be able to create kind of a custom prediction of when your ovulation is going to be. And this is very important to do it that way because for many women, the luteal phase isn't the exact 14 days that like a period tracker will make the calculation based on. And so you have to incorporate other data points when you're predicting that. And then in addition, you can't just leave it there. That's only one piece of it. The other part of it is being able to support women as they modify their lifestyle and engage in healthy practices that can improve, particularly things like metabolic issues, right? On the spectrum of PCOS, particularly, right? But anything involving excess insulin resistance and inflammation. And it's very important to help you stay on that course. And that's part of why we have the hormone horoscope and the period and the psychoanalytics features, where we can track how you might feel at different points in your cycle and give you suggestions of what workouts might be a better fit for that time in your cycle, and tell you how you might even physically feel in your body or your mind. And those two things integrated are a very critical core of the technology part of the app. And then in addition, we have layered on the ability for you to chat with a doctor or to have medication prescribed for you if you need it. And we also can generate a supplement recommendation based on your inputs that you give us. And so we do an intelligent algorithm that then can create some predictions that then you can buy on Amazon. We don't sell supplements directly to you. I think that we really tried to create an experience that pulls together what I call clinically with the most robust ways to improve your fertility without having excess or froth on it that was not helpful, but was, some of the people sometimes add for profitability, right? But we wanted to really trim that and just really get to the core of what made sense. And then we have the mindset resets, which are Roxy's contribution, which are in her voice. You can tell us something about that.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because I always see Anna as like a meeting of our minds. Arnold and I could not come from more different worlds, and we have different ways of thinking and approaching life, right, man? And so what this is it's literally a meeting of our minds. Like, she's talking about medicine, about fertility, the art of fertility and getting people pregnant. And I'm like, what about how we feel during our cycles? I've spent so many days and times in my life being like, I'm crazy. I'm going crazy. No, I'm not crazy. I'm in a certain stage of my cycle. No, I'm not craving, or I'm too tired, or maybe there's something wrong with me. I'm exhausted, or I want to eat so much. Like, navigating these emotions, as we've been told, is actually so much more empowering when we understand that it's actually our body going through different phases and needing different things. And I found that when Arnold explained it to me, I found it so empowering to have this knowledge of actually your cycle affects how you feel and very powerfully affects how you sleep, how your energy is, what you want to eat that day, how you emotionally respond. And so we wanted to incorporate mindset resets to help when you're going through certain things. Hey, FYI, you're going to be hungry right now. It's not because you can't control your appetite. It's because your body needs certain things right now, or your sleep is going to feel this way, or you're going to have emotions that feel a little bit uneasy at this stage in your cycle. And so arming people with that information, I think, is very empowering. And it really kind of negates a lot of the stress of this process.
Yeah, we have this great feature where the will speak in her voice in response to your inputs as to how you feel. People have really enjoyed those and found those to be a nice touch to help support through the journey. It's sort of like a bit of like a calm or headspace style narrative that helps give you some support. So I thought that was important to integrate too.
Yeah.
Been able to do that.
It's all been really centered on this idea of empowering the user, like giving them the information that they otherwise couldn't get unless they went to a fertility clinic, giving them the information about their bodies, about, as endocrinologists that Arnold is, like, there's all this information we don't understand about our hormones. It's not common knowledge, and that I don't think we have a lot of access to. So it was really about giving access to information and empowering them.
If someone's like thinking about trying, they're ready to try, is that the right time for them to use Anna? Like, at what point in someone's fertility journey should someone say, like, I should look into this?
Sure. I think it's a very powerful preconception tool as well as a early fertility support tool as well. Like, I think that something that we really try and do is in our initial intake, which is an intelligent diagnostic that does generate some of the recommendations for you, kind of really identified there are crucial features in your history that would suggest that you should really be speaking to a fertility doctor sooner than later. Because I think that with these kind of supports and with what we've created, it's extremely powerful in the hands of the people who it's good for. And then for people who it's not good for, it could end up being a delay in care. It could end up being something that's not helpful. And I'm really kind of acutely aware of that. And it's very important to us that we structure it in such a way that we try and catch people who are in that boat that really may not benefit from it or may benefit from using it for preconception health support, but then really should consult with a fertility clinic or fertility doctor as well. You can call on it at any point. Most of the functionality is totally free, including this diagnostic feature. So you can then find out, is this a good fit? Do we think it's a good fit? And we explain why we think it's a good fit or not as well in the diagnostic, they'll be GI. And so I think, if you're curious, just call on and take a look.
Yeah. And if it looks like someone might need progesterone support, or maybe they have mild PCOS and they need letrozole, is that easy to navigate?
Yeah. So we're able to prescribe it 4 states, right? But we will expand that for PREDS kind of as we go. It's a very easy process. If you are a candidate and, whether we determine that's the case, that will be presented to you as an option that, you can then decide if you want to go down that road or not. And we have a chat where you can access our expertise directly. And actually that chat comes to me. So I'm actually able to help support you as well in that way at this time. So,
okay. I think you should have a chat for the guys along the lines of like, don't answer that email, or to be like, just tell her she's right. Don't
right.
argue today. Let her want what she wants.
I mean, there are
Be
some
nice.
apps that have a companion app for.
We
for
played
the guys,
around
so-
with a feature that sent notifications to partners,
which I think would be a good idea.
which was fun. But we
Yes.
also didn't want to be condescending, but we did think there were some fun things like
there's some.
FYI, back off
Yeah.
today.
Right. That's so funny. But I want to get into a little bit more about the emotional aspects of fertility, because people just don't talk about that enough. And sometimes people don't look into getting support until they've had a really rocky road, not if they're going through their, ups and downs. So I encourage my own patients to build their own fertility team. And so, Roxy, you spoke about the emotional aspects of fertility. And how do you see the role of mindset and emotional well-being in fertility?
I say this knowing I, of course, can't speak to the impacts it has on someone's medically. I can speak to my own experiences and experiences of users of our app. And I always say it certainly can't hurt. In the process, being calmer, approaching it with more peace of mind and with optimism is certainly going to be helpful, irregardless of what it does to you. I can't say that if you calm your mind and calm your body and feel hopeful, it's going to produce more eggs. That's something I can never say. But what I can tell you is it's certainly not going to hurt. And it's going to make you feel better during this process. And I think it's such an overwhelming and stressful experience. We know stress has an impact on fertility. Arnold could speak to that, and you could speak to that. But my role is to just make people feel better through this process. This doesn't have to be so negative. It doesn't have to be so medical. We try to return people to a place where they feel hopeful. I think, and I truly believe that like manifestation and how what you believe has an impact on your outcomes in life. And so I always tell people to approach things peacefully and with love and with optimism. And I think that's what the app does. Arnold can speak to the stress piece of it, but
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
How did it make you, how did it affect you having been given a diagnosis of infertility?
Oh yeah, that's a big piece of this.
Even forget me, like when you were dating and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that might flat along.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, Arnold. When you start dating and you're like 34, 35 and single, you already have enough baggage. That's the world has told us we're old all of a sudden. And so I'm walking around with all of these things about, okay, I know I want to have kids. My biological clock is ticking, so to speak. I've got all of these things going on in my mind. And now I know that I'm not going to be able to have children without going through a process that's going to be really expensive. So I think one of the things that also I was thinking about is when am I going to have time to do this, to take off work? Do I need to do that? You just don't know. Someone gives you a diagnosis about if you can have children or not. That's a big thing for you to carry. And it was really informing decisions I was making about my life, about my business. I was thinking, okay, I can't take on this new business venture because I'm going to need to be taking on this. And I don't know how it's going to impact my body, how invasive it might be or may not be. And I thought how reckless of that doctor to just hand over that diagnosis to me, because to them, that just might be everyday business. But to me, that's my life. And for me, that's my whole life is I want to have children and make a family. And that's the most important thing in my life at that time. And so that was a lot of stress to carry forward with me. And I think a big thing that informed the act was, can we just take all the shame and guilt out of this? Can we just not make this about how broken and old we are all of a sudden as women? Can we empower us to feel good and hopeful about this process? Because I could get pregnant. Like some of us can get pregnant. You are told that we can't. And so I think that was a big piece of this, is about empowering us and giving us back hope and taking away a lot of shame.
And then you have these daily mindful boosters. Can you tell me about those?
Those came out of this thing that I do myself, which on my own wellness journey, I woke up every morning and I looked in the mirror and I actually did like manifestations and like positive self-talk and mirror talks. And I did all of these practices, which actually retrained my brain to feel very positive. Like positivity is a big part of my life. And people look to me to understand, well, how are you always so positive? You've been through quite a lot. And I really work at it. I say it's like any other muscle in your body. You have to train it so that when something comes at you, when you need to flex that positivity, it's easy. It's easy to do, just like picking up a dumbbell. It's easy when you've been working at it every day. And so these mindsets were just, you wake up every morning and here's a little boost to help you feel good. Mm-hmm. And the more we do it, the more consistent we are with positivity, the more we just become positive people.
Yeah. I want to hear about what other advancements. I have some ideas for you, but what other advancements are in the works? I mean, this is already super advanced. Not that we expect you to have
I think
it.
everything else is in your clinic.
Well,
because it's an extension of your clinic, Anna.
Well, it's a digital extension of, I would say, my care vision combined with, your vision for how to approach people, right? But
yeah.
But I think that one big thing that I would like to integrate, and I'm working with a few partners potentially integrating this, is to incorporate more hormones than just the LH level. Because of course, for people who have irregular cycles, PCOS, LH can be inaccurate in terms of its prediction of ovulation. And having an estradiol as well would be very helpful to assess if someone's actually going to ovulate. So that would really apply to people with irregularities in their cycle beyond just the variation in the luteal phase, which we had mentioned. And so that's something that's in the works. I'm hoping that we can integrate some partnerships there soon to be able to do that effectively.
Yeah.
But yeah, beyond that, we're like, it's really a part of it. That's informed my career vision in my clinic. This is my clinic, right? I kind of had a solo shop, which I've enjoyed watching your work because you obviously do that, which is very rare and it's increasingly rare. I think that this sort of personalization and care, this not having a one size fits all, not being an IVF factory, these things are critical to good fertility care. And I think it's being lost. I think a lot of young people coming out don't actually know even how to not practice that way because that's the entire industry now, right? So it's like, it's become that's just, I don't think they would know anything outside of that. I think I wouldn't know as much as I do about it had I not been in Canada for a few years and just seen a totally different system, different approach, right?
Also, you grew up with this kind of, you should talk about that because so much of what we do is informed by what you literally sat in a clinic as a child watching your father and mother do this.
Well, this is a different generation of physicians. So my father's an GYN. I think he just renewed his hospital privileges for the last year. He's promised it's his last year. He's
still practicing
in his mid 70s. So it is his last year, but he delivers all his own babies. And that was how it was, right? And so it was very much a practice where you take care of people, deliver the babies. Actually, he's arranging a concert in Toronto because he's delivered so many thousands of babies that some of them are musicians. And so there's going to be a concert that happens with just the children that he is delivering.
Oh, I love that. That gives me goosebumps.
I think that is a big inspiration for why I decided to do this in this way. Besides, of course, the need to just do things the right way. I think a lot of things in our industry, that's a lot of conversation are being done in what I feel is the wrong way and with the wrong incentives and motivations. And this was the only way that I could see that I could get things back from my own life, and my own practice in the right way. But yeah, it's informed a lot by, what the old guy did. So
Yeah. Well, we have a lot in common. So my father was an OB/GYN. This office that I'm sitting right now was his consult room for 40 years.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
Okay.
That's amazing.
I don't know.
And my grandfather was an OB/GYN as well. So it's in our DNA. So people
Wow.
are like,
Okay.
why do
That's
you
kind of
do this?
cool.
I'm like, I was born this way. I can't really do
And
it.
you're Dr. Amy, Dr. Arnold, Dr. A, Dr. A.
There we go.
I
Okay. You
know.
got a lot of
You guys have a lot in common.
Because we're part of people's families. We grew up
Yes.
being a part of people's families. We watched our father, we would go to restaurants and everyone would be like, Dr. Avazadeh. And I'm like, that's why people call me Dr. Avazadeh. And I'm like, that's my dad.
It's so true because we were talking about this earlier about doctors, especially the type of doctors that you are. You're part of the community, you're part of people's families.
Right.
And so many people now talk about medicine as an industry.
Mhm.
And we're like, no, we're a part of a community.
Right.
This is a community we're building. This is a community we're building through Anna, a community we're building through the clinic. Here at Dr. Arnold Fertility, obviously he sees a lot of people who need IVF, need all of these different types of care, but it's about making a family.
Yeah.
We're
No,
trying
you're
to improve the
doing
community
work.
aspect.
I'm so glad to have met you guys. And other doctors might want to tell their patients to use on it, like me. Like it's more powerful than just an OPK. So, like, what should doctors know? Can patients download a PDF or something? Like, can they send analytics to the doctor? Like, I get so many charts, but yeah, tell me about that.
You go to the App Store and download it. Most of the functionality that you're talking about is actually totally free, right? So if you want to, look at ovulation analytics, like the app will generate those reports that you could screenshot and send off. If you wanted to, it will guide you through when to do your OPK test, when to have sex. Like it's very explicit as to when to do all those things based on the analytics. And of course, it'll give you the lifestyle supports that we talked about. And all of that is just totally free. It's definitely not going to hurt to incorporate that into your journey. And then if you do need medication or if you do need to chat with somebody about anything, then those are features that you can get additionally, which are paid features, and those you could use as well. But, I would say that for patients who are involved in care and then want to take some time on their own, the app can give a lot of value just kind of as it is, totally free. So I think it's, there's no harm in encouraging your patients to just take a look if they're not ready for IVF yet. It'll give them kind of a support system to be able to really put their best foot forward before
Get their bodies ready.
before coming back. And that's the other thing. It's like
No inflammation.
the other thing that I've experienced is that like we're seeing increasingly people doing 3 cycles of IVF and then getting pregnant naturally. You know what I mean? And that wasn't something we saw before when IVF was being used more judiciously. And I think that a part of that picture is that, and this is my experience, is that sometimes the reasons why you're not getting pregnant are going to cause IVF to not succeed as well. And so not kind of optimizing your body, improving, especially in the context of metabolic conditions or microbiome abnormalities. I'd say those are the 2 categories in which if you don't do some correction in advance of trying, it's going to cause IVF to not succeed as well, which is a whole other disaster, right? I think that the app can really help support in helping optimize some of those states prior to getting into an IVF cycle, even if that is the ultimate thing that you need. So yeah, I think it's like a good bet to just share with your patients if you're a doctor watching this. If they can get pregnant, great. But if not, of course, they'll be back to you in a better position for IVF.
Yeah. I mean, I feel really bad when I say to a patient, I'm really happy to meet you. And I'm like, who's happy to meet me? I'm not happy that they have to see me. I mean, I'm happy to meet you, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we want to keep them out of the clinic as much as we can. I think that's better for everyone in the end. And there's good data on this too. I just want to kind of slide this in there. The American data is so heavily IVF skewed because it's now so much a culture to IVF right away. But if you look at the Canadian data, and I'm writing a paper on this right now, actually, that is still in manuscript. If you look at the journeys of people coming into doing pre-IVF care and see how many people actually go through and need IVF, a lot of those people, and the numbers are around, I would say 20% in some cases, are getting pregnant in the pre-IVF period who otherwise would have very quickly gone to IVF right away if they were in a different system.
Yeah, so many people are placed on a wait list. They're like number 100 on the IVF wait list at a clinic. That happens. As people are waiting 3 months for their appointment, just do things that can give yourselves the best chance of getting pregnant at home. It's not going to hurt you. It can really help. Use the opportunity to just learn more about yourself and take better care of yourself. It's a win-win.
In my opinion, it's a no-brainer, obviously, but I'm biased towards.
Yeah. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today and
Yeah,
for sharing
thanks
your
for having me.
personal journey, helping me make fun of myself. It's always a good time for me, at least. Is there anything else you would like to add today?
Thank you. It's very great to meet you in this way. Hope to stay connected and share, notes about our practices as we go. But yeah, we're just very excited to be building into a space in a way that feels right to us, which I think is really the driving force behind doing this. It's not because this is easier than just taking a job at a big network, It's because it's much more meaningful. And I think that
We're even putting Arnold surrogates on like all the he's doing a lot of work with surrogates, and I'm like, use the app. This is going to make sure that you're in a great place for this pregnancy. So it's not just the girls who are trying to get pregnant at home. It's everyone who's preparing for IVF, the surrogates who are preparing to carry. So it's really,
yeah, I think that's a good point. Like a big focus on our practice is to be personalized in every regard. We have a good third-party story, right?
yeah, my best friend was trying to have a baby and could not have a baby and was not able to carry it herself. And she was kind of distraught about the whole thing. And I said, I have a crazy idea, but why don't we just open my Instagram? I have this big community of mostly women. And why don't we just ask and see if there's any surrogates out there or anyone who wants to carry a baby?
So I'd say one important side note before she goes on. In Canada, being a gestational carrier has to be done altruistically. So there's no payment for it. So that's the nuance in this story. Anyway.
Which makes it really hard to find somebody. So they've been looking for a very long time and they weren't able to find anyone. And they were kind of at the end of their rope and at the end of their hope as well. And so we opened my Instagram and we made a video. And so a lot of women connected with me. And we then passed those on to my best friend. Her name is Monica. And lo and behold, we found a wonderful surrogate and they connected. And it was a challenging case of fertility. And then Arnold handled the whole process and a beautiful baby was born. And that came out of the community that we built on Instagram. And this community that Arnold and I have built together of like a trusted fertility doctor, me. And so it was like I thought it was like a very beautiful story that kind of set us on our way of this is something we really need to be doing together. We've done some great work individually in our respected fields, but it felt like a calling card of let's move forward and try and help more families create. Like who knows who we've inspired out there and what we can do and what families we can help create. So
yeah,
that was my first. And if anything, I can say all those pictures I forced my husband to take of me resulted in something very beautiful. Well, at least a little baby. Actually, there was two. So 2 little babies resulted out of that relationship. She had 2 babies with a surrogate.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing so much of yourselves. And hopefully you'll join us back again soon.
We would love that. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Have a good day. Thanks, you too.